everyone, welcome to your 47th PHP tutorial. My name's Caleb. If it's helpful, please be sure to subscribe. Alright, so in the last video, I talked about how form validation looks when using arrows and simple terms. Well, this video, I want to talk about the actual specific what we would type into an HTML page and PHP page to use our form data in our PHP script. Alright, so in our HTML page, we create what's known as a form, which is where we submit our data form, and then what we have is an action and an equal sign. Now, whenever we have an attribute in HTML, the value is put in double quotes, so we could make it validate.php. Alright, so what this is saying, form action equals validate.php. That's saying once this form is submitted, so if someone clicks submit, well, all these values are sent to the PHP script with the page title validate.php. So if you have another one named v for short, v.php, well, that way, because we have an action, it knows to send it to this one and not this one. So that is what the action does, and that is pretty much how we would type that out. So just to speed things up, I wrote up what an HTML page would look like, and I'll just zoom in here so you can see this. Alright, so it's pretty simple. We have the form action, what we just wrote, and then we assign it a value, handle.php, that's another example. It can pretty much be whatever page we want to use. And then we have the method. The method is how it's submitted, and we're using the post method. Alright, and I'll be explaining that in just a second. The input type, that is an actual form piece within our web page. So, let me zoom out here for a sec. If we have a web page, this form, it asks for something, so we could have, okay, enter your email, and then we could enter a password, right? Well, this input type, that's saying we want it to be a text rather than a checkbox where you can say, oh, you're a boy or a girl. That would be a radio button where you can pick one or the other. Or if it's like, select your favorite foods, then it'd be a checkbox. We also have text areas, for example. And well, what we want is the input type to be text, because we're putting text within that spot. So we then give it a name. Name equals email. All lowercase letters within double quotes, and then we end the input. This is the basic HTML form creation right here. And then you can add other stuff, such as a field set and legend, and then so forth from there. But this is pretty much the basic, absolute beginner HTML form. In the last few videos, I actually created an HTML form that you could go view if you want to check out how an HTML form is actually typed up. Alright, so this name, right here, this is going to take the value email. And as I said in the last video, all of these values are going to be stored in what's known as a super global array. Alright, so for this video, we'll be talking about the super global known as request. And I'll be explaining why we are going to use this one. Alright, so what request does is it will take those values, put within that form, and assign it. It'll put it in this array that you can then reference the values. So in this whiteboard example, we used the name email. So that means this is an associative array where email points to a value such as whatever your email may be. I was going to write an email out, but I changed my mind. Alright, so the request method can take values from post and the get methods. So both of these, you can receive the values from, if for example in the HTML form, for the method I put get instead of post, we can still use the request superglobal array. There is also a post array and a get array. So if we want specifically, the HTML form is using post, those values are also going to be sent to the post array, and if you're using get, those values are going to be sent to the get array. Well, we're just going to use request for now because it can be either from the post or it can be from the get. Now as you get more advanced, there's reasons why you would want to use the specific post or the get array. But for now, I want to illustrate how things work, and I'm going to be using the request array so we can just show that you can get it from the post and the get. Pretty simple. So we want to use the request array. So since it's an associative array, that means we have keys that are strings. So the key would have been email, right? And you can see that right here because the name is email. That is given as the key. This points to the value, whatever you put within the form. So if you put cool guy 1213 at hotmail.com, for example, well, this is the actual value. This is the key. So this points to here. And then we can reference that using array notations, which we learned about a decent while back, but not too far back. So to do that, within square brackets, we use a single quote, and we would use email. So this is an example of how it is set up. This is then going to point to the value. Let's say the person put in their email as coolguy@hotmail.com. So that's what the person actually typed into the form. Well, this is how we reference that data. This right here. This is the syntax that we would put within our PHP script. And then to validate it, we could test if it's in the right form or if it's the right values and so forth. But we're not going to be getting into that yet. Right now I just want to be explaining how to get data from an HTML form. Well, if you want to make things simple so you don't have to type this out when referencing it all the time, we could assign this to another variable, which is not necessary. I'm just showing you for example. We don't always have to use this array notation. We can take this value, which was coolguy@hotmail.com, and to assign it to another variable, we create a new variable. Can you see that? So we could say email, right? And we can assign this the value So this is the basic setup of what we could call a shorthand variable. I feel like you can't see that because of the glare or something. Well, this means that email, the variable, now has the value coolguy@hotmail.com. And then we could echo out this, we could use this in an easier fashion. But if you don't want to, that's fine. You can still use the longhand version using it as an array. but this way you can use it as a string. So it just depends. If you want to use your value as an array, you can use this syntax. If you want to use it as a string, you can assign the, you can use this syntax up here if you just want to use it as an array. If you want to use it as a string, you could assign this to another variable, which is going to take the value and give it to the variable. And the way that this is dynamic is that we don't necessarily know what this person is going to put as their email. So the reason why we assigned that to another variable and we didn't put anything specific, all we did was email, and then we used that, we basically just put this array notation down here and assigned it as a string to another variable. The reason we did that is because we don't know what this person's going to put in as their email. We can't write that out, so we have to reference that using the array notation, which is where the value is stored. Alright, so I know that was complex. Hopefully I managed to explain that well, and as we go on in more videos, it will be explained in more depth and so forth. So please be sure to check out the next video, and also be sure to subscribe.